In the Dragon Ball franchise, there are a number of incredibly powerful characters. Goku, Vegeta, Frieza, and Broly are only a handful of fighters who have reached a level most mortals could never even dream of. Each of them would undoubtedly have the ability to defeat most of fiction in combat. However, there are some characters in the Dragon Ball franchise who have been long overshadowed by these mighty warriors. As a result, they've been largely relegated to the role of jobbers, fall guys that exist to make the top-tier fighters look good. Naturally, after arc upon arc of this happening, the fanbase came to see them as weak. However, what if I told you that these fighters aren't weak, but rather they're incredibly powerful compared to most other franchises, and just so happen to be in one where their talents go unappreciated? Well, when you really analyze it, these so-called weaklings are well beyond the realm of power most superheroes would ever even hope to reach. This OP nature is derived from their own strength or a powerful ability they possess. So in this video, I'm going to be listing off a number of different fighters who would be considered weak by this point in Dragon Ball Super, but would be overpowered in other franchises. Starting with Master Roshi. So I'll begin with Goku's first martial arts master that he didn't step on, Muten Roshi. Now before Dragon Ball Super, he would have been higher on this list, but now with the ridiculous power boost he's been given, fans have started to see that this character who was left behind in the original series still has much to offer. Not only is Roshi incredibly powerful, being able to defeat strong opponents in the Tournament of Power, fight a suppressed base Goku, and of course destroying the moon 2 series ago, but also has a wellspring of abilities that allow him to defeat enemies far more powerful than himself, such as the Lightning Surprise Attack, or the Mafuba. Considering the Mafuba has been shown to work on powerful gods like Zamasu, it's safe to say that it would work on a lot of the heavy hitters in Marvel or DC. Thanos may be a lot more powerful than Roshi, but unless he's got the gauntlet, he might be stuck in a rice cooker for an extended time. Next up is Krillin. Here's another fighter people have considered weak up until now in Dragon Ball Super, where just like the other Z fighters, he got a massive off-screen boost in power. In Dragon Ball Z, Krillin was already incredibly powerful, possessing strength that far surpassed Planet Busters like Vegeta and the Ginyu Force by the end of the series. Not only this, but like Roshi, Krillin has techniques that can kill much stronger foes, such as the Kienzan, which was able to cut off second form Frieza's tail despite him being several times more powerful. If he used his brain and combined it with the solar flare, he might have even been able to kill Frieza in his higher forms. But none of this compares to his feats in Dragon Ball Super, where not only was he able to fight against a foe who gave Android 18 trouble, but he also forced Goku to go Super Saiyan during their fight before the Tournament of Power. Base Goku couldn't escape from Krillin's blast, and this is the same Base Goku who absorbed the Super Saiyan God power and was able to destroy the universe with the shockwaves of his punches alone. Then Krillin even pushed back a suppressed Super Saiyan Blue Kamehameha. So Krillin's power is massive in Super, and he would easily wreck most of fiction single-handedly. Next up is Goku's older brother Raditz, someone who was around for a very short period of time in the story, and basically served as a plot device to introduce Goku's Saiyan heritage, the other Saiyans, and allow Goku to train with King Kai. Raditz was quickly surpassed by Goku and the other Z fighters, but comparing him to the previous series and the other universes, he was far from weak. After all, it took Goku, Piccolo, and Gohan together just to defeat Raditz. All of these 3 characters were far more powerful than Roshi, who was able to destroy the moon in the 21st tournament. And let's not forget, this was only Raditz in his humanoid form. Because as we know, Raditz, like any other Saiyan born with a tail, could become an Ozaru if he was under the full moon, a giant ape form which increases the Saiyan's overall power by 10 times, which would have given Raditz a power level of 12,000 in that form. Considering that Vegeta could destroy the Earth with a power level of 18,000, it's possible that Ozaru Raditz could have done this as well. Even with the power level of 1200, Raditz was feared as a mighty warrior who helped to wipe out civilizations with the other Saiyans, so he would no doubt be able to do the same in most other anime or comic universes. Sure, he'd get owned by the upper tiers, but he'd basically be a god compared to those below him. The same likely goes for the next character on this list, Poipui. Now, Poipui, otherwise known as Pocus, has been considered a joke since his introduction in the Buu saga, and rightfully so. His character's main appearance came when he was totally decimated by base Vegeta, and destroyed in an awesome moment. But despite this, Poipui may have been a lot more powerful than fans give him credit. After all, Babidi was stated to have recruited the most powerful evil fighters from across the universe, of which Poipui was one of them. He was a champion of a world with a natural 10 times gravity, much like Planet Vegeta, a level of gravity that would kill most humans in a matter of seconds. He was able to easily kill Yamu, who was amped by Babidi's magic, with a single blast. And although Vegeta considered him a weakling and easily defeated him, this was also the same Vegeta who at this point in time had been a Super Saiyan for years and had a base power level in the tens of millions. Even most of Frieza's forms would be considered a weakling to him. So for all we know, Poipui's power could have been considerable in early Dragon Ball Z. And much like the other fighters on this list, he unfortunately was overshadowed by the broken power of the Saiyans when he was introduced. So put him in another story, he might just be unbeatable compared to his competition. Next up is Kami. So Kami is another character in Dragon Ball who is very underrated by fans. Not only was Kami the far superior half between he and King Piccolo, which he demonstrated when he beat Goku with a single finger, but he also has some very powerful abilities, such as the ability to create the hyperbolic time chamber, an entirely separate dimension with higher gravity, fluctuating temperatures, and where every day outside is a year inside. But of course, he was also the creator of Earth's Dragon Balls, which when gathered summon a magical reality-warping dragon who can resurrect the dead, grant immortality, or restore an entire planet. He also has the ability to activate the Dragon Balls whenever he chooses. If Kami was in Marvel or DC, he would be an incredibly powerful support character, able to defeat powerful enemies with battlefield removal or helping the heroes with superior training, or just by giving them mass immortality. So even the former god of Earth isn't anything to sneeze at. And now we come to the Supreme Kai of Universe 7, Shin. Someone who has been seen as a laughingstock of the Dragon Ball franchise ever since he started freaking out on Babidi's ship. And I know laughingstocks. After all, I am Laughingstock Media, a channel name I chose myself, yet people continue to use it as an insult against me. They clearly have a very high IQ. But anyway, Shin is actually very powerful. It's just that he was introduced at a point where his power was pretty much worthless. Before Goku and friends started getting huge gains in power from Namek onward, and before Beerus was introduced, Supreme Kai was the most powerful god in the universe, and head and shoulders above Frieza, who he stated he could kill with a single blast. His power was even greater than Piccolo's, who at this point had trained with a Super Saiyan, merged with Kami, and entered the Time Chamber. And despite the fact that Gohan could become a Super Saiyan too, Shin performed better against Fat Buu than he did, so clearly he's not weak by any stretch. In addition to that, Shin has instant teleportation which can travel between universes. He can see any place he chooses with his godly vision, can create matter from thin air, and as the god of creation, he can craft planets, stars, and life. And although he's a weakling compared to the Z Fighters in Super, if he was in most other fictional universes, he would have been seen as the all-powerful god he believed himself to be, before Goku and the others shattered that expectation. And now we come to Boss Rabbit, who is introduced in the very first arc of Dragon Ball. His fighting power isn't normally much to be impressed by, but that's not why he's on here. The reason he's so high on this list is because of his technique, the Carrot Touch, which as you may know is the ability to transform anyone he touches into a carrot. He was basically Majin Buu a decade before Toriyama ever thought him up. And like Buu's Candy Beam, there's no indication that his opponent could fight back like Vegito did. Just imagine if the Avengers or the Justice League were up against an impossible threat. Darkseid, Thanos, Galactus, or Doomsday, for example. And there's no way that they can win until Boss Carrot arrives on the scene and extends his hand. The second they touch him, it's game over. All the power in the multiverse means little when you're turned into a salad topper. Plus, he can survive in space according to Toriyama, so he's already got a big advantage over most. The next character on this list is much like Boss Rabbit, where he also has a seemingly unbeatable technique. That is Devilman, otherwise known as Akuman, who first fought Goku during the Fortune Teller Baba tournament. Devilman is a powerful being from Hell, and his ability is known as the Devil Might Beam. This attack is basically the ultimate one-shot, where if the target has any evil in their heart or any dark thoughts, the evil will grow and grow until they explode. Just imagine if Devilman joined the Z Fighters early on. All of the battles would have been a piece of cake. Piccolo, Frieza, Cell, Boo, and pretty much every other powerful villain wouldn't stand much of a chance against him. And the more evil they are, the easier to win. He's basically the Squirrel Girl of Dragon Ball. Unless you're pure of heart like Goku, you can be a god, a sky father, a new god, or a celestial. If you go one-on-one with Akuman, your new home is going to have a lot more fire and brimstone. Or stuffed animals if you're Frieza. Now we come to the character who is considered by far the weakest of the Z Fighters, Chowtsu. The psychic human slash Kyon-Shi slash Pokemon who has been by Tien's side since the beginning. He's proven useless time and time again, since practically every time he fights a villain, he ends up dead. Sometimes by his own hand, and contributes pretty much nothing to the fight in the process. But despite all of that, this weird ageless creature is still pretty powerful. I mean, he's been training beside Tien for decades now, sparring with him and increasing his power. He's trained under Kami and King Kai, and even as of Dragon Ball Super's Moro arc, he's a part of the fight. In most worlds, his psychic powers would be beyond comprehension, as he could easily take over the Earth and likely even destroy some planets while he's at it. He might even be able to chuck them or his enemies directly into the sun. He'd basically be like Mob from Mob Psycho, except his weakness is math and anything that causes him to think. But since no one would know his weakness unless they read his mind, he'd pretty much be unstoppable against most low to mid-tier enemies. And as we saw in the Yamcha manga, if he ever turned evil, the world may be doomed. Well, unless he's randomly taken over by the spirit of some high school student. Why do people like this manga again? I don't know, maybe it's just the art. It certainly is in the writing. And last but not least is Yamcha, a character I talked about in depth in my video Why Yamcha Isn't Weak. Because despite the memes from Team 4 Star and the lack of knowledge from many fans about this character, Yamcha isn't weak. He's actually incredibly powerful and would easily make most of fiction his bitch. Sure, you may be able to name 5, 10, 100, or even 1,000 characters you think might be able to beat him or fight him. But when most of fiction is street level or slightly above that, including Marvel, DC, Image, literature, movies, and so on, it's pretty obvious that he would solo most of them. Just like some others on this list, Yamcha is a casual planet buster who can fight many times faster than light, is a martial arts master, and trained under gods. He might be considered a joke now in the story, especially when he's written by the hacks behind Dragon Ball Super's anime, but he and the others on this list would prove incredibly powerful in most fictional worlds, and would be totally overpowered under any normal circumstances. It's just a shame that they're surrounded by super shiny simians with all the hacks and plot power that Toriyama can imagine. But that's kind of the point of Dragon Ball. Even weak characters are overpowered compared to other anime. That's just how Toriyama wrote the story. For better or for worse. That's just Dragon Ball. But there are a number of characters in the story who I didn't mention and could also fit this criteria. So let me know your own picks down below in the comments. If you like this content, you can help support LSM on Patreon, a link to which is down below in the description. Make sure to subscribe and enable all notifications, so you can stay up to date with all of my videos. Thanks for watching and make sure to stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, and you better subscribe.